All right, so I'm going to bore you by talking about the British political system. You could have clicked on a cat video or something that's more entertaining, but instead you decided to come to this. It's fine, I'll educate you. So I'm going to use the European Union election results in order to talk about it. A lot of people say it's not a fair representation because a lot of people don't care about the European Union election. Well, that's not the case this year because a lot of people went to vote for some reason. And it was the biggest turnout in quite a while. I think since ever. Might be wrong. But anyway. So, with that said, we can use it as an indicator in order to see how the political parties are doing in Britain. However, it's very difficult to do that because of the Brexit Party. Now, the Brexit Party is not really an actual party. It's a one-issue vote. It's in the name. They want Brexit. And it also managed to get people from the far left, managed to get right-wingers. It managed to get people from Labour, from the Tories. It got a lot of politicians and a lot of support, which is why it did so well. And it's a party led by one man, Nigel Farage. They don't even have internal elections. And I suppose the reason is that once they get Brexit, they're probably going to stop being a party. But because of their existence, we don't really know how the other parties would have been doing without the Brexit Party. Because all of these votes are going to be distributed through the other parties over the next election period. So it kind of screws up the statistics. But anyway, let's talk about the main parties in Britain. Britain used to be a two-party system up until very recently. For dozens of years, people took place in voting for either the Conservatives or the Tories. Allegedly, legend has it, history says that the Conservatives are right-wing and Labour is left-leaning. And while the legends do validate the fact that Labour are indeed left-leaning, just to explain to you how left they are, take into account that Britain does have a very small communist party. And you're going to wonder, it's like, okay, why isn't the Communist Party showing on these polls? It's a legit question, like, where are the communists? Well, the communists don't really have people they place for the elections. They just direct people to vote Labour. So that should tell you a lot about the type of party Labour is. On the other hand, you have the Conservatives, which apparently should conserve something. I genuinely do not know what exactly they're conserving, because I looked at them. They seem to be just progressives running under the speed limit. Labour is the Starship Enterprise, creating the way for the new frontier, and the Conservatives are rushing quickly behind it. It's basically two parties that are filled with career politicians, in my opinion. And it doesn't really matter who you vote for because you get the same thing. It's like playing World of Warcraft and choosing between the Horde and the Alliance. Like, sure, there might be some small differences, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing. So you could say, if you really wanted, that Labour is a little bit anti-Semitic if you believe the mainstream media, and Conservatives is a little bit Islamophobic. But since I've seen a conservative saying that you can't criticize Islam, right? Like, it's not that you can't criticize Muslims. No. You can't criticize Islam, period. I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's very interesting. They're definitely conserving something. I don't know what. Then you get the Liberal Democrats. Now, the Liberal Democrats have seen a massive rise in the polls, and they seem to be overtaking Labour. And if you wonder, like, what the Liberal Democrats are, well, they're hardcore intersectionalists. Like, they're the social justice party, like the party with a huge boner for identity politics, incredibly left-leaning, which, despite the name, that it's for liberty, right? Like, it wants people to be as free as possible. And take into account that 100% liberty is impossible. Like, for example, if I want to play really loud music during 4 a.m. at night when my neighbor wants to sleep, we're not both going to get the same thing. Either I will be forced to stop playing loud music so my neighbor can sleep, or my neighbor will not be able to sleep, right? So 100% liberty in a society is impossible to obtain. But a party that calls itself liberal would try to at least give as maximum liberties and freedoms to people as humanly possible. And I don't see how they're doing that when they're also introducing levy on tobacco companies, introduce mandatory target on sugar reduction for food and drinks, They want to implement the recommendations to regulate cosmetic surgery. So, you know, they're really trying to regulate every single aspect of a person's life. And that's not even when we're going to go into the intersectionality, because they want diversity in business leadership, pushing for 40% board members being women. And this is in the private sector, I assume, right? So the government wants to tell the private sector what they can and can't have as people in leadership. I really hate this type of ideology because there's really no end to it. They will go, do you have 50% men and 50% women as leadership? And if you manage to get that, they go like, all right, but do you have the correct percentages of different people from different ethnic backgrounds? And if you manage to get that, they will go, okay, but do you have enough people that like to take a cock up the ass? And it's like, what the fuck does that have to do with running a business? It's like, well, no, because you need LGBT representation. Like, what do I care what people fuck in their bedroom? And then they will go, well, no, see, because it's important, because they're being discriminated, and you and your private company need to hire them in positions of leadership. It's like, yeah, but what does that have to do with running the company? How does that make any sense? Are you going to start saying, oh, you don't have enough people with green eyes, you don't have enough people with blue eyes? It's like, it's a private company, it's supposed to make a profit, it's not supposed to be the Senate. Is that like a person that's being elected into a position of leadership isn't representing, like, I don't represent white straight people if I get some, whatever, you know what, I'm going to end up in a rant, so I'll just end up here. They also want to apparently defend people who want to wear the most conservative dress of Islam, and like the full veil, the full body veil. That's banned, I believe, even in Syria. It's banned in a lot of even Muslim nations. But hey, you know, as I said, they're the Starship Enterprise finding the new frontier. And you know, like they have a lot of other things, like campaign to reduce intolerance and hate crimes alongside organizations such as Show Racism, the Red Card, and Frank Trust UK, and Kick It Out. So they probably have to increase taxpayer money in order to fund NGOs that are going to do activism. But anyway, these are the Lib Dems, right? And I heard one of them on television speak, and she was saying all the correct regressive points. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk to Carl, which was right there, the moderator just said, like, I don't want to debate because I validate his views. And it's like, that's such an idiotic way of thinking. Like, only a communist would say that. Like, when the judge talks with the person that's accused, is he validating their views? The way I view it, okay, if you take one person that's a socialist and you take one person that's a capitalist, and they both share their ideas, the capitalist is going to persuade the biggest amount of people. So the socialist has to start censoring. They have to make sure that the capitalist doesn't get to speak. And they come up with things that's like, oh, if you're a racist, you don't get to speak. And funnily enough, I get to decide who's a racist. Right, what else we got? Well, we got the Greens, which are also, I made a video about them, the Green Wave. They're also communists. Their party is co-opted by communism. Like, it didn't start like that. The Green Party initially started being, like tree-hugging hippies and stuff like that. But because they were anti-war and the communists were also anti-war, they kind of joined forces, and eventually they got co-opted by the communists. So the Greens are all about increasing your taxes, and they're absolutely going to take every single liberal Democrat principle when it's something that doesn't concern the environment. And they're also opposing nuclear energy, which is something that might actually, reduce pollution majorly. But if they did that, then there would be no need for the Greens. And then you have the Change UK. Now, the Chucks, initially they were called the Cocks. Like, I'm not even making it up. Like Change UK, so CUK. They realized that people were mocking them and they were making fun of them, so they actually cocked and reverted their name to CHUK. And it's like, come on, that's cheating. They're pro-establishment, like they're the people who wanted Britain to remain. And I love the fact that the BBC is saying, oh, look, Nigel Farage only got 31% of the vote. What about everyone else? And it's like Nigel Farage pointed out, well, hold on, Labour is pro-Brexit, Conservatives are pro-Brexit. You add all of them together and you add UKIP, and you're going to remain with the Cocks? and probably like a couple of the Liberal Democrats and the Greens, and that's the actual percentage. But yeah, no, they're absolutely desperate right now. They're genuinely suggesting that because the Brexit party didn't get over 50% of the votes, that the British public still doesn't want Brexit. Like, and then we get UKIP. Now, UKIP, from what I know, they don't have any big donors. They don't have any corporations funding them. They don't receive any major contributions. And right now they're going to be electing a new leadership. So we're going to see how that works out. I've no information about who's going to be running or not. But what I do know is that they have managed to attract a lot of young people, which is very important in politics because young people usually go out to vote, and young people also go out and do a lot of activism. And finally, out of the independents, one is worth mentioning, Tommy Robinson. The mainstream media is having a really interesting double standard on him. When they advocate for censorship, they treat him like he is the worst person in the entire United Kingdom. Like at any point, he can mind control people and get them to do political violence. He is, I suppose, the Goldstein of the United Kingdom. You had activists, you had the mainstream media, you have politicians pressuring social media to get him the platform. And it was successful, right? So in one hand, he's the boogeyman, but in another hand, he is a laughing joke. Like he is a buffoon, as Metro tries to portray him here. Like look at these very uncharitable pictures. And you also have the establishment laughing at him. So here you go.
Robinson, 38,908. I therefore declare that the...
So they're basically laughing at the people who voted him, I suppose. To me, it's really interesting. Like he managed to get so many votes without having a social media, without being able to collect money online because he doesn't have a PayPal, he doesn't have a Stripe. The British establishment managed to make sure of that. And all he did was just go around Britain with his little truck and have his interesting rallies. And he got attacked by a gang of Muslim men that were escorted by the police to go there. Some of them threw bricks into his panel, his video panel, to make sure that he can't speak and he gets shot down. There were children there, they were escorted out, and the mainstream media just reported it as violence erupted. Like all of a sudden violence erupted, but there are video evidence with the police leading all those gangs of people in there in order to create chaos. And even with all that, he managed to get a significant number of votes. Now, if Tommy didn't manage to get elected, I don't think UKIP ever stood a chance. Everyone voted for the Brexit party because it was Nigel Farage and he has his legacy of creating Brexit. Plus the fact that he also has a lot of money in donations, people backing him, Tories going into his party and bringing the votes, people from the left going into his party and bringing the votes. So yeah, I don't think that Tommy had the chance of being elected, but maybe local elections is going to get these people to stop laughing. So overall, let's take a look back. We got a one-issue party, which is not going to exist after these elections. And then we got the Social Justice Party, okay, far left. We got Labour, which is supported by communists, extreme left. We got the Greens, extreme left. We got Conservatives, which are far left but with brakes on. And then you got the Chucks, also left. And you got UKIP, which I would still point it as a center-left party. Like, it's not the way Republicans, like conservatives, are in the United States. Like, they're still talking about, you know, the NHS and stuff like that. So they're not against having the government tax people money in order to provide them social services, which is a left thing to do. So no, they're center-left. So again, like I just want to show people how things are in Europe, right? Like why they consider someone like Tommy Robinson to be far right. When everyone is left of Stalin, when they're looking towards someone that's in the center, oh my God, that's so far right. That's literally it. They don't see the center of the axis anymore. For them, it's not even a line. It's a little dot in the distance. So I'm making these videos just to show people why left-leaning parties keep winning in Europe. It's because there's nothing to choose from. And if you try to do something else, if you try to make your own party, you're going to have activists hounding you. You're going to have the internet, the social media, the platforming you, making sure that you don't have your message to be spread across, making sure that you don't have a way to get financed. They're going to make you completely unlikable to the public, as the mainstream media just publishes smear after you. And they're also going to send activists to make sure that you can't even have a rally. So yeah, that's why, like, if you want to be a career politician, if you want to just get a good buck, because what is the wage of a EU MP? I think it's like $250,000, right, or something like that, and then you get like a lot of benefits. So if you want a very comfortable life and a very nice chair, all you have to do is to spew some social justice nonsense, and people will vote for you. And you need to have the right connections. You need to have like the right people, and all of a sudden it's a lot easier. So why swim against the current, I guess? Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll definitely be looking forward to see your replies.